This is one of the most popular shonen heroes of all time, and yet for some reason no one seems to understand why. So in this video I'm gonna explain exactly what makes Izuku such a fantastic protagonist. Midoriya, or as his kind and not at all abusive childhood friend Bakugo called him, Deku, a nickname for someone who can't do anything, is a surprisingly controversial main character for many people. While he ticks off an impressive number of shonen tropes like his unique power, his tragic childhood, or his constant strive to up his abilities, Deku also gives off a way more vulnerable, insecure, and feminine vibe than many of the typical shonen heroes, even though all, or at least most of them, share similar insecurities.
Naruto.
Deku, however, despite wielding the strongest quirk in the story, is surprisingly open about these insecurities, as well as his emotions and his generally empathetic nature. And it's exactly this twist on the stereotypical hard-boiled tough guy protagonist who buries all negative thoughts and emotions deep within himself that seems to give Midoriya a bad reputation with some anime and manga fans. And yet it's exactly this openness about his own feelings and weaknesses that make Deku and his journey to becoming the greatest hero of all time a story that is more than worth following along. It's a story about growth, both on a personal level and on the level of society, making Boku no Hero way more complex and deep than it appears to be on the surface. And so, to understand what makes Deku such a fantastic main character, we will look at his personality and story arc, his major flaw as a character, as well as his relationships with Bakugo and Tomura, and how both shape the story around him. This is the story of Midoriya Izuku.
そうだとしても余計なお世話だとしても君を助ける
Now the first thing you need to do if you want to understand any character in any story is figure out what the central theme, the central moral argument of that story is that the author tries to convey through the characters and the plot. You know, what's the take-home message when we're all done here? In the case of Boku no Hero, after over 300 chapters now, it's quite clear that the central moral question that Horikoshi is exploring is both surprisingly basic and complex at the same time. What does it mean to be a great hero? Duh.
ヒーローとは正義とは何かそれがヒーローなんだから
But this question implies a lot more than you might think, because the story explores this problem by contrasting two polar viewpoints, individualism and collectivism. In other words, what does it mean to be a great hero on the personal level, and what does it mean to be a great hero from the viewpoint of society? Right from the start, we're told that Midoriya wants to become the greatest hero that saves everybody. You know, a statement so vague and so shonen that I'm 95% sure that Horikoshi chose it on purpose so he could put his own twist on it. And so at the same time, we also get introduced to the society that similarly seems to be as straightforward and simple as it gets. You know, the peaceful citizens are protected by the good heroes from the bad villains, painting this quirk society as a peaceful utopia, only that everyone has superpowers. And despite everyone having a unique quirk here, this society is normal. When everyone's special, no one's special. And when you take the moment to really think about it for a second, the wording that Horikoshi uses here is also very clever. The story about heroes and villains sets our expectations for these groups as starkly as humanly possible at the beginning, especially as in the first couple of arcs, both groups fulfill these expectations pretty much perfectly. Villains do bad things and the heroes stop them to save and protect everyone.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
And yet, it doesn't take all too long until you realize that this initial black and white view of the Boku no Hero world is not reality, but we are literally sharing Midoriya's faulty worldview for a large part of the story. Midoriya thinks that being a great hero means saving people being assaulted by bad villains that cause all the pain and suffering in this otherwise perfect society. And so his major flaw as a character is his fanatic idealization of this hero world that is projected on the #1 hero, All Might, that Midoriya almost worships like a god. So now you might ask, why exactly does Deku think that way? Well, in general, I think that this society in itself seems to propagate this simplified image of good and evil as well. The deeper answer can be found with the deuterogenist of the story. Deku has endured verbal and physical abuse from Bakugo for over 10 years. He's 15 now, so that means for over 2/3 of his life. In this society that is shaped and defined by quirks and that lives under the guard of the hero profession, Deku is one of the rare cases where a quirk has not manifested. In other words, he's just a normal human being like you and me, which makes him relatable. Only that in this society of superpowers, this makes him the true outcast. Now, being a very kind-hearted and altruistic person by nature that wants to help people, having no quirk puts so much distance between him and his dream of becoming a hero that Deku had no other choice but to either completely idolize or detest them. The fact that Bakugo kept treating him like a piece of trash for not owning a quirk manifested such a strong sense of low self-worth and insecurity within him that when he finally got the chance to actually become a hero against all odds, he embraced this one thing he always wanted as all good and all powerful, completely incapable of seeing its flaws. I mean, you know, even after Bakugo kinda stopped constantly picking on Deku, you still see him twitching and stuttering whenever he's around him, again and again taking away from the confidence that Midoriya slowly builds over time by mastering One for All and fighting for and with his friends. I honestly believe that this is quite often overlooked, but as he says himself in this panel here, Midoriya truly hates Bakugo for this. He admires him ever since they were young, yes, but he hates him for the way he treated him. And it is the low sense of self-worth that Bakugo beat into him over and over and over and over that makes Deku blind to the reality around him, idolizing the hero profession so much that he kept putting his health and his life on the line to such an absolutely ridiculous and unhealthy extent that it quickly became worrying to everyone around him. And so, while the impulsive and egocentric Bakugo has to learn to be more considerate of others, something that I will discuss in detail in his analysis, the neurotic and altruistic Midoriya has to learn to respect himself more and make harder decisions in order to actually be able to save others. I think the perfect example of this insight beginning to dawn on him is when Izuku can't save Bakugo as he has already sacrificed both his arms. Because for the longest time, proving himself to be worthy of inheriting One for All and becoming a hero is way more important to him than his own well-being, even if it also means being less effective and useful to others.
Not a very smart move.
Now, while Midoriya's need for self-realization and maturity is quite evident early on in the story, it takes quite a while to reveal the other aspect of Midoriya's flaw, the ambiguous and dark side of the hero society. However, more and more, you learn that this world where good heroes save the innocent citizens from the evil villains is a lot more morally grey and complex than you originally thought. And so, as so often is the case with apparent utopias and stories, it turns out that it's the hero society itself that produces its villains in the first place, as, big surprise, most people aren't actually born evil, but become who they are as the result of their circumstances. Yes, there's also some explorations of the concept nature versus nurture in Boku no Hero, but primarily Hirokoshi focuses on external circumstances.
Why does everything have to be so complicated?
Exploring what makes people into villains is a major aspect of the story that is explored in a number of ways, going as far as making the villains the main character of certain story arcs. And the central symbol for this is of course none other than Shigaraki Tomura, the anti-Deku, whom we follow on his path to becoming the strongest villain. Firstly, we understand that in this society of quirks, there are two fundamental flaws. Both of them are explored over and over again. The first of these is the notion that people with destructive or dangerous quirks are treated as outcasts and incompatible with society. Now, this is of course a pretty straightforward metaphor for general racism in the real world. Discrimination based on physical attributes one has absolutely no control over. No matter if it's Tomura, Dabi, or Twice, at some point we get that these people don't have terrible quirks because they're villains. No, they are villains because they have terrible quirks. An absolutely fantastic example for this is Eri, who mirrors Tomura's story almost completely, with the only exception that the heroes actually end up coming saving her, as they failed to do with Tomura. Now, the second flaw of the Hero Society is the profession of heroes itself, that we already know is far beyond all good and noble, but additionally has eradicated the common sense of compassion and altruism in the society at large, creating a sort of common bystander syndrome. This point is especially pronounced in Tomura's backstory. Instead of helping this lost child, people simply assume that some hero will do the job, not bothering to do anything themselves. And so the message here is that ultimately it's the society of heroes themselves that creates most of these villains by failing to do what Midoriya idealizes so much about them: saving everyone. Now, this is interesting because, as you know, Midoriya and Tomura of course mirror each other extremely closely, with Deku himself being a victim of discrimination and neglect, only that he gets taken in by the hero All Might, while Tomura gets taken in by One for All. Don't forget that Tomura also wanted to be a hero, and yet Midoriya is only starting to recognize very slowly this truth about the world, that the society of heroes that he has thought to be so perfect is not so perfect after all. And that brings me to Deku's character arc and what actually makes him a true hero, even if it takes quite a while in the story to get there. The payoff, however, is just the better.
Feels good. Feels good.
Really good?
Real good.
As a result of these two character flaws, no self-worth and blinding idealization of the hero world, what emerges only very slowly but very clearly throughout the story is that Midoriya's arc is about understanding the complexity and faults of society, while at the same time growing past his personal flaws to truly become a hero that can save everyone, especially someone as apparently unredeemable as Tomura, who by mere chance was forced to take the path opposite to Izuku. And this arc is in full progress now. Especially in his more recent encounters with Tomura, Midoriya is starting to see the world for what it is. Yes, heroes help and are very important to keeping the balance in a world full of dangerous superpowers, but the system is neither perfect nor unfailable. Similarly, he's starting to grow as well as a person, as with the mastering of his abilities and all the setbacks he had from going overboard with his self-sacrificial attitude, he has started to mature, fight smarter, think more about himself, and overall starts to form his own opinions and beliefs about what it means to be a great hero. And I think this slow emancipation from All Might and the other heroes he always admired is really important, because imitation is a strong theme within the story. Over and over we're shown that trying to be exactly like someone always leads to tragedy and failure. Instead, Horikoshi promotes the idea that taking inspiration from those you admire is great, as long as you walk your own path and find your own way of doing things. We see this with Ida, who tries to be like his brother, with Todoroki and his mother, Twice and all of his clones, and of course Deku and Bakugo, who both try to imitate their respective ideal of All Might. No matter which of these countless examples you take, they always end in failure. Imitating someone else brings suffering, not self-realization. And so, ironically enough, it is Deku's incredibly pure and straightforward character that changes the minds of many of these people. Ida, Todoroki, etc. And finally, Deku also starts to realize this more and more himself. All Might wasn't perfect, as he also couldn't save everyone. Instead, Deku starts going his own path, unlocking new powers of One for All, while realizing that saving everyone also includes those that the current society has abandoned. I think the kickoff to this development is this moment right here, where Midoriya realizes that instead of punching like All Might, it might probably suit him way better to actually kick.
One for All を授かった僕もそうあるべきだと単純すぎて気づきすらしなかった。
And so it's Deku's genuine goodness and desire to help others, his immeasurable courage and ability to change the hearts of those around him that make him a true hero. And while it understandably might be frustrating at first to follow him as a protagonist who starts from a very negative point on his character arc, the more the story and Deku progress, the bigger the payoff for actually sticking with him becomes.